So how's it going, motherfuckers? I am back with a Justice League review. So I just got back from seeing this movie. Of course, you know, I'm the guy with the Batman versus Superman reviews that people lost their mind, lost their shit, attacked me, all over a movie. This was almost 2 years ago now. So Justice League, just released last week. So I just got a chance to go see it, and I have to say, it was a good movie. It wasn't a great movie. It wasn't an excellent movie, but it was a good one. And of course, the critics once again. I'm not going to get into that whole thing. What I said that the critics have just lost their minds. I mean, I don't understand their reviews. I mean, they overrate Marvel movies, and they just seem like they have something against DC. I don't know what it is, but this is not exactly what I would call a bad movie. And to call it a bad movie, and I even see that a lot of fans are even disagreeing with that. Everybody was like, "Oh, it's going to be garbage. It's going to be horrible." Just because these critics, you take a look at some of these critics, and you really look at their reviews, look at some of the same critics, and you'll see a lot of inconsistencies with what a lot of what they have to say. A lot of it doesn't even really make a lot of sense. A lot of people said that this movie is a mess, that it's horrible, it's just not any good. And once again, it's kind of like Batman versus Superman, but I could see those arguments why somebody wouldn't like Batman versus Superman. They didn't like the way that Doomsday was handled. They didn't like the portrayal of Alexander Luthor. Perhaps they didn't care for the approach of Ben Affleck. But once again, like I have to say, as it applies to this movie, you could check it out. I put out a rant. It was called the Batman versus Superman First Look. Way back in 2014, I believe it was, when we got that first screenshot of Batman next to the Batmobile. I said that, what were they thinking? What was Zack Snyder thinking in his mind to cast Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne as Batman, especially after the disaster that was Daredevil? But then, when I saw Batman versus Superman, I was taken aback that actually Ben Affleck put out probably an even better portrayal of Batman than even Christian Bale. A more accurate interpretation of Batman, an angrier Batman, a more ferocious, unforgiving, aged Batman that didn't give a shit. More like a Frank Miller style Batman. And that's what I really appreciated about that role. And that was one of the many reasons why I did like Batman vs. Superman. But we're talking about Justice League. So what is great about this movie? There's good. There's a little bit, not really bad. There's nothing really in this movie that I said was bad. There's things that could have made it better. There's improvements, and I'm going to discuss that as well here in this video. But what did they get right and what did they get wrong? So Ben Affleck is Batman, once again, a great portrayal of the character. So you have Wonder Woman, you have Cyborg in here, you have Aquaman, you have the Flash. And I mean, everybody does an adequate job of what they're supposed to do. Adequate, and some are more outstanding than others. Out of all the performances, Cyborg maybe seems to be the least interesting of the bunch. The outward appearance is great. I mean, they made him look good with all electronics and his cybernetic body. That was well put together. Why they chose Cyborg over Green Lantern is a mystery. I'm not a big fan of Green Lantern, so I didn't mind, or Martian Manhunter. Some people would probably complain about that. I haven't really seen too many complaints over a lack of Martian Manhunter. Some people are happy that Green Lantern wasn't there because of the debacle that was his movie, even though it's being handled by different hands. I don't know why people would be nervous about that. But Aquaman, I don't feel like they really did enough to flesh out this character. First of all, he looks awesome. I love that they went with the King Neptune look, the more updated comic book look, and they didn't go for the shorter haired Aquaman with the orange suit. I mean, the look is down. The guy did show a bit of personality, a bit of angst, but there was so many things I would have liked to see more out of Aquaman. I don't think that they really hinted at his lore enough. Bruce Wayne jokes about being able to talk to fish. I would have loved to see some fight scenes with Aquaman underwater, really capitalizing on his aquatic nature. I mean, I was kind of surprised he didn't go for that. I would have really liked to see Aquaman going head to head uh, with Steppenwolf and his minions. Just like briefly, maybe just take 2 or 3 minutes out of the movie to show him in the water. Maybe calling upon a shark or maybe like a killer whale or something just to come aid him, or an octopus, or a giant squid. It would have been pretty awesome, I think, to see something like that. So like Aquaman was there, but outside of using his trident, I didn't really think that they did it enough with it. He kind of just felt like another member on the team, and they didn't really flesh him out enough. If anything, Cyborg, who I did say was not really that interesting, had a more fleshed out story. Besides some drawings on the walls of a little cabin that he and the villagers are in, that he seems to be hanging out with at the time with Aquaman. I mean, you don't really get too much into the story of him. Wonder Woman, she's great. Gal Gadot, I believe that's how you say her name. Anyway, whatever. If I probably butchered her name, there, I apologize to those fans, but she still does a really good job. I still haven't seen the Wonder Woman movie yet, believe it or not, but she is good in this role. I wasn't too sure really what to think of her, even when I saw Batman versus Superman. I mean, I didn't really like her or dislike her, but now I gotta say that I do like her. I do want to see the film more now that I've seen more of her. And you get to see her people, you get to see the Amazonians. They go a little bit into the history. And let's talk a little bit about Steppenwolf. No, not the guy who sung Born to Be Wild, but the villain in the film. Um, Once again, it's kind of like Suicide Squad. I'm going to have to say the same thing. It's not like this is a terrible villain. I've seen that being said at certain parts on the internet. But he's not a great villain. Like, I really don't understand why we can't just jump right into Darkseid. It's like, why do we have to wait? It's the same thing with the Marvel movies. Why do we have to have these garbage generic villains, these minor villains? It's the same thing like in Marvel. You have a wealth of villains to choose from in the universe. You've got Galactus, you've got Thanos, you've got Doctor Doom. You don't even have to have it specifically catered to that exact superhero, but you could choose all of these villains and you just settle on the most minor villains possible. And I don't know, it drives me crazy. It's like Enchantress in Suicide Squad. Enjoyed the movie, but couldn't help but feel that maybe they could have done a little bit more. I mean, I guess maybe they were kind of stretched a bit thin because they were already using villains, and they couldn't really figure out who to go after. I mean, it would have really benefited Suicide Squad to have a stronger villain. And in this movie, I mean, there's a good job. I like the voice actor. Uh, you know, I don't understand why we have to have all CGI. What? Like, we couldn't try to do something a little bit better here. You could have a little bit of CGI maybe transposed onto the face, but a completely CGI'd villain. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I really would like to see more practical effects. The more and more that we get deeper into CGI, I get a little nervous because now I'm seeing like actors being robbed of roles. I mean, yes, the voice is still there being used by an actor, but the physical. of an actor not being there and just instead a transposed computer image. I just can never really get on board for that. And you might be asking, as somebody who's such a big Star Wars fan, who actually does like Episode 1, 2, and 3, why do I feel that way? It's just there's an opportunity here where you could have had an actor here in this role, and it kind of just takes something out of it. I mean, it looks like I'm looking at the cutscene of a video game sometimes. So, I couldn't really get past that. He's not a bad villain, but it's like, why can't you just go for Darkseid? Why can't you choose, like, one of the Superman villains, Metallo? Why can't we maybe get a few Batman villains in there, maybe teaming up from maybe a villain from each? I don't know who Cyborg's villains are. I'm not really too familiar with Flash. I mean, I know there's like Reverse Flash and everything. And let's talk a little bit about Flash. So now we've talked about the villain. Like I said, he's an villain that could have been better. They could have used so many. Like DC has a wealth of villains, and they could have used anybody from the Batman, Superman, or even go into the Wonder Woman universe. You have all those opportunities there. I don't even know where Steppenwolf is from. I'm going to guess it's probably from the Wonder Woman universe, but I don't know. Help me out with that in the comments. Didn't really research that prior to seeing the movie. Kind of just wanted to go in fresh. So the thing is here, it's he's a decent villain that gets the job done. But at the end of the day, there was an opportunity here to have a stronger villain. But you Marvel fanboys can't really say that movies like Civil War didn't have the opportunity to have better villains, because it definitely could have. So the Flash, I really dislike the Flash. I'm not a big fan of it. I'm not a big fan of the costume, but in this movie, I think that the actor did a really good job here. It was a nerdier, more nervous Flash, and it's just I could never take the Flash seriously in those bright red pajamas. I couldn't help it for this character. He was, he was a bit clumsy when he talked. He was a bit unsure of himself, and he was goofy. And it was kind of funny because it almost made me think of Sheldon Cooper from Big Bang Theory dressed up as the Flash at times. But I really enjoyed it. I liked the performance. I hear a lot of people complaining. I know when I looked at the trailer, I think I did a reaction to the trailer. I says, "Oh, no, I was not a big fan of, the Flash," but I only heard that. See, that's why it's so important to watch these movies in context. It is impossible to judge a movie by its trailer anymore. They dress these trailers up, and sometimes trailers just don't do it justice. Trailers seem like they like to spoil a lot from films, to try to really get people to see what's going on in their film, and sometimes they don't. This is one of those trailers where they didn't really give a lot away, and it actually didn't make the movie look that great, but it was actually way better than what the trailer had alluded to. And this is one of those case in points. The Flash did a really good job here. I mean, I thought that was a different take on the Flash. It gave him more character. It gave him more personality. And I know that the fans are going to attack me here, because I know the CW Flash TV series. I have seen it. Not a big fan, but you have a serious portrayal of the Flash there, and it is a popular show, and people probably wanted a very serious Flash here, and you don't get that. You get the exact opposite. But the humor really never gets in the way. He's goofy. He's a goofball. He makes these jokes when he's uncomfortable. And he, he even alludes to his antisocial nature. And I thought that was good. I liked this awkward Flash. I think that it was a different take. I like that. See, I'm not scared, like a lot of other people, to venture beyond the comic books. Like, this is cinema. These are the movies. Not everybody is going to like exactly how things are in the comics. You have to understand that these films are being made to make money, to appeal to a mass audience. So when you have a bunch of serious heroes all lined up, it has been done before. You might be saying, well, Brad, there's dramas and action films where nobody cracks a joke through the whole thing. But these are considered to be more like popcorn flicks. These are movies that are really not supposed to be taken ultra seriously, or at least they never used to. That's why I enjoyed the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films so much. That's why they're some of my favorite superhero movies still to date, because they didn't really take themselves ultra seriously. They did have a serious tone to them, but they knew when to have a good time. They knew when it was okay to goof off, but not really get too far away from the storyline. That's what I feel here. So, and it was a pretty strong portrayal of the Flash. So I think out of most of the characters, that they did a really excellent job with the Flash. They really made him come into his own, and I really felt like, I don't know, like there was more of a focus on him. Like he stood out more, and that was maybe due to his personality, and he seemed to be a bit more, though antisocial, he was outspoken. And that really helped the character. I'm saying this is a Flash detractor here. I don't like the Flash. I've said that a number of times. I even said it when I reacted to the trailer. I said that I didn't like the Flash, but now that I watched it, I'm like, I like the Flash here. I like him here. So that was a nice surprise from what I've seen. So everybody pretty much works together well here. I'm not saying like this is like the chemistry that's like blowing my socks off, but it's adequate. And you see Superman coming in within the last half an hour of the film or so. And I'm happy that they didn't start off the film, resurrecting him, because it gave the chance for some of these characters to grow, even though they could have done a better opportunity here. Like I said, they really could have fleshed out more of Aquaman. I mean, this guy's interesting. He looks awesome, but they didn't do enough to really capitalize on Aquaman and like what he's all about. Like, I don't really know a lot about Aquaman, and I don't know if a lot of other people do too. I mean, there are a lot of Aquaman fans, but I don't personally know any people that go out of their way to really read the Aquaman comics and really stay up to date on them. But it would have been nice to see a little bit more into his lore and what's Aquaman kind of doing at this stage. We see that he's guzzling a bottle of liquor at one point. I mean, we get the sense that this is a more playboy Aquaman. He's a bit more loose. And like I said, there's at times when he shined through, but at the end, really at the end of the movie, I was like, I don't really know more about Aquaman than I did at the start of the film. I mean, I just kind of really know that, he doesn't really want to settle down or really be held back or anything. But aside from that, you don't really get a full sense of who he is like that you do with the Flash, or even a little bit with Wonder Woman or like Batman. So Superman coming in though the last half an hour was probably really good for the film. At least we got to explore some of these other characters, even though they don't go nearly in depth enough with them. So that I could see. The problem that I do have, like I said, and I will say it once again, is these maniacal critics that made like this movie was the worst thing ever. Like, oh my God, we look at it on Rotten Tomatoes, and we all know that Rotten Tomatoes is just an average. It's not like this. Rotten Tomatoes, unlike what a lot of people think, is not this one place that's rating things. No, it's a culmination. It's an overall average of reviews given by critics. And the problem is that most of the reviews were negative. And it's like, this is not really a movie that's like garbage, that's unredeemable, that has no redeeming qualities at all, and no positives. That to me is like Independence Day Resurgence. That was a garbage movie. That was a movie that critics panned, but then you look at the overall average on Rotten Tomatoes, and that was like a 50 something percent, which you can clearly see that there are more negative reviews for Justice League. And I'm just not getting it. This is what I'm saying, the inconsistency of critics. And you could say, well, Brad, those were different critics. See, but that is the problem. That is the problem, that the Rotten Tomatoes average matters so much in this day and age, because we do have to look at that. They're different critics. Not every single critic from each publication or website are the same critics. That probably, those were probably different critics for, say, Independence Day Resurgence than the same ones that watched and wrote their reviews for Justice League. So maybe that's not a fair comparison. But the problem is, you're putting this up there on the internet, and you're giving a false consensus of this is how people feel. Many of these people who watch these films are out of touch. They don't really know a lot about superheroes, why people want to see superhero movies, why people enjoy superhero movies. So they go into these movies kind of blinded to, what makes a good superhero movie in the eyes of fans. And like I said, I disagree with a lot of fans. You've seen it here on YouTube, but I combat them all the time. Some are hardcore comic book fans that want the movies following those comics to a T, no exceptions, none at all. And it gets annoying, to say the least. But you have that section, that sect here on YouTube and all over the internet, those hardcore comic book fanboys that are unforgiving. You're not allowed to change anything about these films. They have to follow the comics. If you don't like something, that pays homage to the comics, and you criticize it, like I'm probably doing here in this review, I don't know exactly what I'm criticizing, but that would really annoy certain comic book fans. But I know that people probably want me to give a negative review. I know the majority don't like this movie. They want to see DC movies put down. They want to see them disparaged. They want them to be condemned. And people probably want to see more praise for the Marvel stuff. Like I saw, it really enraged people. People did not like the fact that I did not like Civil War, and it annoyed people to no end. That see, that's the crazy thing. It's like, why me making a video on the internet, posting it up, and saying that I don't like a film? Why would that annoy you so much? You, as a person who has your own mind, can surround yourself also with other individuals that have like-minded views who do like those movies. You choose to watch the video, and then you choose to rage and get triggered when someone does not agree with your viewpoint on a certain film, movie, a comic, whatever it is, a form of media. So it's like, how can somebody's opinion annoy you so much? See, the difference with me is I get annoyed at the critics because they seem like they control the landscape. Because Justice League isn't really doing so good in the box office. I know what a lot of people are going to mock me about that. They're going to say, "Oh, you like this movie and it's doing bad at the box office." I don't really care how it's doing at the box office. That's not really a concern to me. What I'm concerned about when I go to see a movie, I'm concerned about being entertained. And I want to like the movie. I want to enjoy the characters. I want to laugh at the jokes. I want to enjoy the story. I want to learn about the villain and why he's doing what he's doing. Um, it's not really a concern to me how the movie grosses. It's not really a concern to me of how close the movie is following the comic. The thing is, if you want to see those things played out, like, read the comics. That's why the comics are there, because you see, the writers and the artists made those comics so the story could be told in that fashion, and the movie producers and the movie writers and the director made the movie like this so it could be enjoyed as such. You see, because then it would be a comic book. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense. You see, this is a different way. I know what people are going to say, but I want to see my comic book played out in the movie. And it's just, you're just not going to have it that way all the time. Marvel does seem to be catering to that sect, but it's not always going to be that way. So overall, I thought Justice League was a pretty good movie. Was it very good? No. Was it awesome? No. But it was a good movie, and I enjoyed it. There were some worthwhile performances in there. Like I said, I really like Ben Affleck as Batman. I'm looking forward to, especially in the end credits, we get to see that Deathstroke, he's there. with Alexander Luthor, and I'm guessing I'm gonna take a crack at it and say that probably in the Batman that might be the villain, and I'm all for that. Deathstroke is impressive, and I gotta say that I didn't really know a lot about this character until playing Arkham Origins, and even though that is my least favorite Arkham game, I was like, this is a pretty cool character, and he's only in that game for like 5 to 10 minutes, and I wanted to learn all I could about him, and it's really good to see that they're gonna give him a film, that he's gonna be featured in one of the films, and it probably will be the Batman. So that was, I was pretty happy to see that. Pretty excited to see the Batman. Pretty excited to see another Batman solo film, because I am a Ben Affleck fan. Like I said, somebody who was quite critical of that decision, I ended up liking it a lot. So Batman here, The Flash, Wonder Woman stealing the show here. It was great to see Superman coming back. I like how they have the fight with him. That was also a really cool part to this film. He's trying to regain his memory. He doesn't remember who he is after he's been resurrected. That was a really nice touch to this film. But like I said, the only things really hurting this film, and they are big major things, is that not all the characters are completely fleshed out. We don't know a lot about Aquaman. We don't know a lot about Cyborg. We see what happens. We hear about the accident. We meet his father, but like I feel like they could have dug a little bit deeper. But Cyborg was, I guess you explained him enough, but Aquaman, really, they kind of just did a lazy job with him. Not really sure. And the first time they go after Steppenwolf, he's not even there. Aquaman's not even there, which is, I don't know. Maybe I missed something there. I don't know why he goes with that. Why he doesn't go with them. So that was probably the biggest disappointment to me, is that they didn't do things with Aquaman underwater. They didn't really capitalize on this character and his lore enough. And the villain wasn't really that exciting. Could have you had a wealth of villains to choose from, but like I said, it's not a very good movie, not an excellent movie, but definitely not a bomb like what was being advertised. It was I recommend the film. Like I said, people are going to have very low expectations of this due to Batman versus Superman. It seemed like a lot of people didn't like that movie. Still not really too sure why. Like I said, it had problems, visible problems, but not enough to really hate or really go on a fucking internet rampage against people that enjoyed the film to that point. Taking it way too seriously. Anyway, I recommend it, guys. And, like I said, if you're getting triggered over this review, that's really too damn bad, because this is one man's opinion. If you don't like this opinion, you could easily turn this video off, and I'm sure you could find hundreds of reviews for Justice League that are super negative, that are super horrible, that people are just, saying, oh, fuck this movie, piece of shit, and all that. I'm sure you could, find plenty of reviews like that. So, by all means, if you're not interested in assessing this movie fairly, I would say that, you probably watched the wrong video at this point, right? Anyway, guys, so there's my review. I still haven't seen Thor Ragnarok yet, but I definitely want to see that, and I will put up a review for that one as well. All right, guys, until next time.